Hello, St. Joseph's youth and families. Welcome to my kitchen and my house. These are weird times that we're living in, right? We are all being asked to stay home right now, and we're living in the midst of this global pandemic. And so, we as a parish, we as a church community at St. Joseph, we know how important it is for us to still be able to connect, for us to come together as the body of Christ during this time. And so I will be sending out these weekly videos with a brief reflection on the gospel, as well as a family prayer activity that you and your family can try together. So, in the Catechism, we hear the family called the domestic church. And right now, I think that's more real than it has ever been before because we can't go to Mass, right? We can't go to youth group. We can't go to church like we're used to. And so I hope that this video can serve as a resource to aid you as parents and teens of how can you bring the church to your house? How can you incorporate faith into your daily schedule, your daily routine as you are at home, as we live life through the reality of this pandemic? Be encouraged that God is not limited to the walls of our church at St. Joseph. Yes, we find such grace in the Eucharist, but God can still come to us in the walls of our homes and within the walls of your family life. So we are going to dive into this gospel for this Sunday. The gospel comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verses 1 through 45. So a brief summary. Jesus is really close to this family, and it's these siblings, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. And he gets word that Lazarus has died. So Jesus goes to visit Martha and Mary, and they come to him in their anguish and in their grief, and they say, Jesus, if you would have been here, then our brother wouldn't have died. And Jesus weeps with them. He actually finds himself crying with Martha and Mary. And then he goes to the tomb of Lazarus, and he says in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, untie him and let him go. So Jesus does the unthinkable, right? He performs this miracle of raising Lazarus from the dead. A few things I want to focus on is the fact that Mary and Martha cry out to Jesus, if you would have been here, our brother would not have died. And I think in the midst of this pandemic, that is often our cry right now in the world, right? I find myself thinking, Jesus, where are you in this? Where are you in the midst of this suffering that our world is experiencing? And Jesus' response to Mary and Martha is so important. In scripture, we read, and Jesus wept. Jesus wasn't weeping at the death of Lazarus because he was about to raise him from the dead. Jesus was weeping at the pain he witnessed in his friends, in Martha and Mary, in the pain that he saw that they were experiencing. I just want to encourage all of you that Jesus sees us right now. Like, we see the heart of Christ in that scripture passage, that he sees us in our suffering, in our anxiety, in our fear of this pandemic, that the Lord sees you in that, and that he weeps with us, that he suffers with us, that he's not here to leave us alone in this suffering, but he's with us in our fear. Another encouragement from this gospel is when Jesus actually raises Lazarus from the dead. We see that death does not have the last word in this story. that Jesus has power over death, and that salvation, the salvation that Christ offers us, is actually the last word in this story. I think right now, more than ever, we are facing the reality of death. We're facing the reality of death because of this virus. And I think for me, it's been an encouragement and it's been a self-reflection of, where does my hope come from? Because so often I know I place my hope in the things I can control. I place my hope in material things. I place my hope in my social life, right? Being able to do exciting and fun things with friends and with family. And I place my hope in a steady paycheck, right? In money in my bank account. But right now, a lot of us are living with a lot of uncertainty in those areas, and a lot of those things have been stripped away from us. And we're being asked to place our hope in nothing else but Christ, but our faith. And our faith is the certainty that we can cling to right now. So I just encourage you guys as a family to think about, where do you place your hope? And to ask the Lord to give you that gift of hope right now, that He is our hope, that heaven is our hope, and that eternal life will have the last word in our story. Okay, you guys, so for our family prayer activity this week, you will just need a piece of paper, and each person will need a pen. So you can also use a note card to write on for each person, and you can tear your piece of paper into individual strips for each person. So have each person in the family write down 2 prayer intentions. One prayer intention that they have for the world right now. It could be for an end to coronavirus. It could be for all of the healthcare workers, all of the supermarket workers, some general prayer intention for the world. And then for your second prayer intention, go ahead and write down a personal prayer intention for yourself. So maybe you'd like to pray for an increase in the virtue of hope. Maybe you would like to pray for an increase in the virtue of joy in the little things, or maybe discipline in your work or your schoolwork. Whatever it is, just a personal prayer intention for yourself during this time. And then take those pieces of paper, fold them up, and place them into a bowl. Have everyone pick a piece of paper out of the bowl. If you get your own, put it back in and choose another one, or switch with someone. And then pray for that person, whoever you pick. Pray for those prayer intentions for that person during the whole week. Maybe say an Our Father together every day as a family, where you pray for those intentions.